All right, and we're live. Hello, everyone who's watching. Hopefully there are people watching. And welcome back to English class. Like and subscribe for more cool content. I got to get the subscriber numbers up. Once I hit 1,000, then I can stream from my phone. So I'm at 19 right now. So I'm feeling not so good about that. But all right. Remember, we got a few due dates coming up. First off, so the quiz today is on the Sonic. Guys who are watching from home, make sure you do that quiz. It's posted. It's attached to the assignment on Jupiter Grades. So you can take it. The book 2 questions are going to be due tomorrow. Again, those are posted on the assignment on Jupiter Grades. And if you're at home, you can upload them. So I'll check those. We'll go over them tomorrow. And then the summer reading paper or papers, depending on your situation, are due Friday evening. I have now graded all of the creative writing assignments. In general, I thought they were pretty good. I think that you guys put some real effort into making them interesting, which I really appreciate that. And so keep it up. If you haven't yet turned in your creative writing assignment, I know there are a couple of guys who haven't. Please do so as soon as possible, because right now you've got a big fat 0 sitting in your grades. So once you get that in, get it graded. I'll dock you a bit of credit for being late, but a lot better than 0. Okay, still working on memorizing the poem. Remember that that recitation is going to be due in 9 days, next Thursday. So I'll read it again, just like I've been doing every day to help you get it in your ear. And then we'll continue with our friend Homer. So Sonnet 94 by William Shakespeare. They that have power to hurt and will do none, that do not do the thing they most do show, who moving others are themselves as stone, unmoved, cold, and to temptation slow. They rightly do inherit heaven's graces, and husband nature's riches from expense. They are the lords and owners of their faces, others but stewards of their excellence. The summer's flower is to the summer sweet, though to itself it only live and die. But if that flower with base infection meet, the basest weed outbraves his dignity. For sweetest things turn sourest by their deeds. Lilies that fester smell far worse than weeds. Make sure you're practicing that. The repetition is going to be key here for getting these memorized. It's a fairly short poem. Some of the vocab's a little difficult. Some of the phrasing is a little bit more difficult than you might be used to, but please work on this. All right, let's continue with book 2. So how about those review questions? So if you hear any answers, you can fill them in, and you won't have to do that at home. We're going to pick up from page 103. No, I'm sorry, 102. 102, Telemachus has just addressed the suitors at the assembly, told them all to get out. They refused. And he's announced that he's going to go on this journey to find news about his father Odysseus, this journey that Athena told him to go on. But Telemachus is feeling a bit discouraged after this unsuccessful council. The suitors are unwilling to leave on their own, and the people of Ithaca, who should be supportive of Telemachus and his household, after all, they are the royal household of Ithaca, are not interested in doing anything to fix the situation. They're staying out of it. 1 or 2 people have shown some interest in helping out, but for the most part, the people of Ithaca are not willing to get involved with this. They're just going to let this situation continue. And so we just saw on pages 101 and 102 who speaks to Telemachus and encourages him. Who is it? Guys who are watching the live stream, you are always welcome to write in with answers or questions. Anyone who speaks to Telemachus on pages 101 and 102? If you look at the bottom of 101, you'll find the answer. Yep.
Mentor.
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 And who is Mentor? It's actually Athena in disguise, right? Mentor is a person that Telemachus knows. He's a family friend. But here it's not actually Mentor. It's Athena disguised as Mentor. We've already seen her take a couple of different disguises so far in the Odyssey, and here she takes yet another one. All right, and she encourages him. We'll start then from line 330, most of the way down page 102. And so Athena, daughter of Zeus, assured him, no lingering now, he heard the goddess's voice. But back he went to his house with aching heart, and there at the palace found the brazen suitors skinning goats in the courtyard, singeing pigs for roasting. Antinous, smiling warmly, sauntered up to the prince, grasped his hand and coaxed him, savoring his name. Telemachus, my high and mighty, fierce young friend, no more nursing those violent words and actions now. Come, eat and drink with us, just like the old days. Whatever you want, our people will provide. A ship and a picked crew to speed you to holy Pylos, out for the news about your noble father. But self-possessed Telemachus drew the line. Antinous, now how could I dine with you in peace and take my pleasure? You ruffians carousing here. Isn't it quite enough that you, my mother's suitors, have ravaged it all, my very best, these many years while I was still a boy? But now that I'm full grown and can hear the truth from others, absorb it too, now, yes, that the anger seethes inside me, I'll stop at nothing to hurl destruction at your heads, whether I go to Pylos or sit tight here at home. But the trip I speak of will not end in failure. Go I will as a passenger, nothing more, since I don't seem to command my own crew. That, I'm sure, is the way that suits you best. With this, he nonchalantly drew his hand from Antinous' hand, while the suitors, busy feasting in the halls, mocked and taunted him, flinging insults now. God help us, one young buck kept shouting. He wants to slaughter us all. He's off to sandy Pylos to hire cutthroats, even Sparta perhaps, so hot to have our heads. Why, he drove as far as Ephyra's dark rich soil and run back home with lethal poison, slip it into the bowl and wipe us out with drink. Who knows? Another young blade up and ventured. Off in that hell ship of his, he might just drown. Far from his friends, a drifter, like his father. What a bore! He'd double our work for us, splitting up his goods, parceling out his house to his mother and the man who weds the queen. So they scoffed, 104. But Telemachus headed down to his father's storeroom, broad and vaulted, piled high with gold and bronze, chests packed with clothing, vats of redolent oil. And there, standing in close ranks against the wall, were jars of seasoned, mellow wine, holding the drink unmixed inside them, fit for a god, waiting the day Odysseus, worn by hardship, might come home again. Doors, snugly fitted, double hung, were bolted shut, and a housekeeper was in charge by night and day. Her care, her vigilance guarding all those treasures, Euryclea, the daughter of Ops, Peisenor's son. Telemachus called her into the storeroom. Come, nurse, draw me off some wine in smaller traveling jars. Mellow, the finest vintage you've been keeping next to what you reserve for our unlucky king, in case Odysseus might drop in from the blue and cheat the deadly spirits. Make it home. Fill me an even dozen. Seal them tightly. Pour me barley in well-stitched leather bags, 20 measures of meal, your stone-ground best. But no one else must know. These rations now, put them all together. I'll pick them up myself toward evening, just about the time that mother climbs to her room and thinks of turning in. I'm sailing off to Sparta Reef, and his fond old nurse burst out in protest, sobbing, Why, dear child? What craziness got into your head? Why bent on rambling over the face of the earth? A darling only son. Your father's worlds away, God's own Odysseus, dead in some strange land. And these brutes here, just wait. The moment you're gone, they'll all be scheming against you. Kill you by guile, they will, and carve your birthright up in pieces. No, sit tight here, guard your own things here. Don't go roving over the barren salt sea. No need to suffer so. Courage, old woman, thoughtful Telemachus tried to reassure her. There's a God who made this plan. But swear you won't say anything to my mother, not till 10 or a dozen days have passed, or she misses me herself and learns I'm gone. She mustn't mar her lovely face with tears. The old one swore a solemn oath to the gods, and vowing she would never breathe a word, quickly drew off wine in 2-eared jars and poured barley in well-stitched leather bags. Telemachus returned to the hall and joined the suitors. Then, bright-eyed Pallas thought of one more step. Disguised as the prince, the goddess roamed through town, pausing beside each likely crewman, giving orders. Gathered beside our ship at nightfall. Be there. She asked Noemon, Phronius' generous son, to lend her a swift ship. He gladly volunteered. The sun sank, and the roads of the world grew dark. Now the goddess hauled the swift ship down to the water, stowed in her all the tackle well-rigged vessels carry, moored her well away at the harbor's very mouth. And once the crew had gathered, rallying round, she heartened every man. Then bright-eyed Pallas thought of one last thing. Back she went to King Odysseus' halls, and there she showered sweet oblivion over the suitors, dazing them as they drank, knocking cups from hands. No more loitering now. Their eyes weighed down with sleep, they rose and groped through town to find their beds. But calling the prince outside his timbered halls, taking the build and voice of Mentor once again, flashing-eyed Athena urged him on. Telemachus, your comrades at arms are ready at the oars, waiting for your command to launch. So come, on with our voyage now. We're wasting time. And Pallas Athena sped away in the lead as he followed in her footsteps, man and goddess. Once they reached the ship at the water's edge, they found their long-haired shipmates on the beach. The prince, inspired, gave his first commands. Come, friends, get the rations aboard. They're piled in the palace now. My mother knows nothing of this, no servants either. Only one has heard our plan. He led them back, and the men fell in and fetched down all the stores and stowed them briskly, deep in the well-rigged holes as Odysseus' son directed. Telemachus climbed aboard. Athena led the way, assuming the pilot's seat reserved astern, and he sat close beside her. Cables cast off, the crew swung to the oarlocks. Bright-eyed Athena sent them a stiff following wind rippling out of the west, ruffling over the wine-dark sea as Telemachus shouted out commands to all his shipmates. All lay hands to tackle. They sprang to orders. Hoisting the pinewood mast, they stepped it firm in its block amidships, lashed it fast with stays, and with braided rawhide halyards hauled the white sail high. Suddenly wind hit full, and the canvas bellied out, and a dark blue wave foaming up at the bow sang out loud and strong as the ship made way, skimming the whitecaps, cutting toward her goal. All running gear secured in the swift black craft, they set up bowls and brimmed them high with wine, and poured libations out to the everlasting gods who never die. To Athena first of all, the daughter of Zeus with flashing sea-gray eyes, and the ship went plunging all night long and through the dawn. Okay. This last section here of book 2. We're introduced to a new character whom you need to be familiar with. Who is this new character here? Give you a hint, it's a woman. That's Athena. Athena's Zeus's daughter. We've seen her before. She's introduced on page 104. This character is introduced.
All right.
Yes, Euryclea. That's how you say her name. Euryclea. You need to be familiar with her. Her name is Greek for wide fame or wide honor. And who is Euryclea?
Daughter of Ops.
Yeah, her father's name is Ops. Her grandfather's name is Pisanor. How does she fit into this whole situation? Oh, Penelope, Telemachus, the suitors, Athena, all of this. How is she connected to Telemachus? She's his nurse. What does this mean? Like she takes care of him when he's sick?
When he was a baby.
Yeah, when he was a baby, what?
She nursed him, like she took care of him.
She nursed him. She was literally his nurse, his wet nurse. This is a not uncommon thing, especially historically speaking, that wealthy women would have another woman take care of their infant children, nurse them, change their clothes, clean them, all this stuff, so that they wouldn't have to deal with all that stuff themselves. Euryclea, and we'll learn more about her as we go on, but she was Telemachus' nurse when he was a kid. She's almost like a second mother to him. But she's a servant. She's a slave here. And how do we know that she is trusted? How do we know that Telemachus and Penelope trust her, besides the fact that Homer tells us that they trust her? What job does she have? It's mentioned on page 104. What job does she have? Where does Telemachus go on page 104 there? So he's just spoken to the suitors. He's come back home after this meeting. The suitors greet him on his way in. He goes back into his house, and what is he doing at home? What is Telemachus doing in the last section of book 2? Well, what had he said that he was going to do? We know he has a plan to do something.
He's trying to leave the Athens.
Right, he's preparing to leave, to go on this voyage that Athena told him to go on. And what does he go and get from his house on page 104? Well, what are some of the things he's going to need for this trip? Food. That's one of the things here. Notice right at the top of 104, Telemachus headed down to his father's storeroom, broad and vaulted, piled high with gold and bronze, chests packed with clothing, vats of redolent oil. And there, standing in close ranks against the wall, were jars of seasoned, mellow wine. What is Euryclea's job here?
Go to see 32.
She, not only is she going to get these things for him, but it's her job to watch the storeroom where the treasures of Odysseus are, including his wine. Notice in line 380, doors snugly fitted, doubly hung, were bolted shut, and the housekeeper was in charge by night and day. Her care, her vigilance guarding all those treasures. Euryclea, the daughter of Ops, Peisenor's son. So she was Telemachus' nurse. She was almost like a second mother to him when he was little. Now she guards the storeroom where all the expensive stuff is. Doors are locked, strong doors, and she's got the key. And what does Telemachus have her prepare for him? 2 things.
Wine.
Wine and
Food.
what kind of food? Barley. You guys know what barley is?
What is that?
It's a grain, sort of like wheat. It's what you make beer out of. What else? Sometimes it's put in soups to sort of thicken them. Anyway, it's sort of similar to wheat. And here he's having her fill some bags of the barley grain for them to eat. And this would be prepared pretty simply, probably just boiled in water into a kind of porridge. But after it's harvested, it's dry, so it's not going to spoil easily. And wine also is going to keep well for this voyage. Okay. So Telemachus gets this food for his journey. What else is he going to need for his journey besides food and wine? He's going to need a ship. Where does he get a ship from? You learn on page 105 where he gets a ship.
Athena is in a ship.
Athena gets him one. How does she do that?
He has no women.
Yeah, she asks Noemon for a ship. She just shows up. She says, "Hi, I'm Athena. I'd like a ship." What does she do? How does she ask him? What does she look like when she asks him?
Mm.
But look at that stanza there, from line 422 to 427.
Oh, give him that letter. Like that. I'm not explaining the look.
What does she look like? What do they see when they see her?
Beautiful.
Nope. Hmm?
The goddess?
They don't see the goddess.
I don't know.
Then Bright-Eyed Palace thought of one more step.
Yeah. That's a dream.
Disguised as the prince,
Oh.
the goddess roamed through town. So we've seen her in a couple disguises before. Who is she disguised as now? What's his name? Hmm? Telemachus, right. She's disguised as Telemachus here. Not only does she get him a ship, she also gets him a crew. And we get this great scene right at the end where the ship sets sail as the sun is setting. They're going to sail through the night. All right, thank you very much. Finish this book 2 questions for tomorrow, and be ready also for, that's it, just the book 2 questions for tomorrow. And thanks for watching.